This is RED's latest flagship cinema camera, the V-RAPTOR XL, and it shares a lot with its smaller V-RAPTOR brothers. In this video, we'll be exploring what the cameras share, what makes the XL different, and discuss who their target demographics are. The XL shares a lot of its key specification with the smaller Raptors. It's available with the choice of either an 8K VistaVision sensor or 8K Super 35 sensor, both of which have stellar image quality and a great range of frame rates that positions them quite uniquely in the cinema camera market. They all use the same core menu system, side operator button and screen layout, sensor Peltier system, CF Express Type B media, and R3D RAW and ProRes internal recording. We've done a massive feature-length review on the normal V-RAPTOR VV, as well as taking a look at the Super 35 version as well in a previous video, so if you want to see both of those, you can check those out via the links in the description below. But let's get into what makes the XL different. The design philosophy of the XL is very similar to that took DSMC2 to Ranger. The goal being to make the XL a more complete camera for high-end cinema productions, that has more integrated accessories so it's more consistent to pull out of a rental bag than their smaller brothers. XLs are already being used in productions such as Zack Snyder's upcoming Rebel Moon, upcoming Indian Tamil language film Leo, and the smaller V-RAPTOR was used on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm sure we will also see them in other TV, documentary, and natural history productions as well in the future. Compared to the original V-RAPTOR body, it's quite a bit larger, but around the same kind of size as the Ranger bodies, but with the bottom cut filled in here due to the increased functionality inside of the camera. Weight-wise, RED has actually made it pretty simple to remember. The XL weighs roughly 3.6 kilograms or 8 pounds, the original Raptor weighs half of that, and the Komodo weighs half of the original Raptor. Due to the extra space the body has, the XL has a more robust cooling system than the Raptor. It has 3 intakes around the side and bottom of the camera and an exhaust on the top, which uses the same size fan as the original Raptor. This improved cooling system should result in even more stable temperatures and help keep the CF Express Type B media cool as well. The XL features a newly designed internally sealed ND system, which is great to see from RED. The XL's built-in ND system has been designed from the ground up by RED and uses a cartridge-based system which gives you an option to use a clear filter, then 2 stops, through to 7 stops or 0.6 to 2.1 stops of ND. You can also granularly control this in quarter, third or full stop increments, which is really precise compared to the other high-end cinema cameras which only allow for full stop increments. The filters RED have used have been through plenty of testing to make sure that they perform the best they can, but we wanted to see exactly how they perform ourselves. For our colour testing, we grabbed our Calibrite card, lit it with a 600D as evenly as possible, and then positioned it in the middle of our frame. We used the Sigma 65mm t1.5 as it's a very clean, clinical lens that has a large image circle, which is helpful when using t-stop to control your exposure. We then adjusted the light to expose for mid-grey using another card at T22 with no ND dialed in. We then dialed in ND and adjusted the t-stop of our lens for the change in exposure down to T1.5, which is at 7 stops. We then took the footage into Resolve, zoomed into the centre of frame so our image is pure grey, white balanced the no ND clip, and then applied that grade to each clip. There were also some very small differences in exposure, which we normalised too. Looking at the results, we can see a pretty minor shift between clear and 2 stops, which is good. From there, we can see small differences until we get towards the higher stops, and here we can start to see the waveform and vector scope changing, especially at 7 stops where there is a substantial shift. However, this isn't too surprising with stronger ND strengths, and the performance before 7 stops is actually really good, especially for a system so granular. We also wanted to see how the NDs behaved in regards to IR pollution, as they are supposed to have IR cut built in, which should help mitigate any issues or IR pollution. For these tests, we grabbed an Arri Blonde and blasted it right at Sam with a bunch of different black material around him. Looking at the clear shot and then the 2-stop shot shows just how good these NDs are at blocking the IR pollution that happens without any engaged. This performance holds pretty well throughout the range, but you can then start to see the colour shift that we showed earlier towards the higher stops. There are dedicated buttons on the operator side of the camera for controlling it, but you can also control it via the side LCD, top LCD, remotely using their app, or via RCP2. One cool little detail is that if you turn the ND to off and then go back to it, it will remember the last ND strength you had it set to. Changing the ND is very quick to do so. It really is just a great system to use. The original Raptor uses Canon's RF lens mount, whereas the XL takes the DSMC2 lens mount and reworks it a little bit. This means that there will be both PL and EF mount options available that you can swap between easily by undoing the 4 screws on the front of the body. Old DSMC2 mounts will mount fine, but pins for metadata pass-through will not work as the data pins are now at the top of the mount due to the ND filter design. The PL mount is shimmable and has both Cook iData and Zeiss extended data options. The EF mount is a locking mount like the old DSMC2 one was, and will pass through EF metadata and autofocus information as well. Due to the design of the camera physically, RED won't be designing interchangeable shallow flange lens mounts like RF or E mount. As the VistaVision XL features the same sensor as the original V-Raptor, it does mean that you can run into the sensor split issue that is present on the original Raptor. However, from our testing, it does behave differently to the original Raptor. Stitch sensors aren't super uncommon. The sensors used in ARRI's LF series and 65, as well as the RED Monstro, all use this technique and can exhibit artifacts from it in certain situations. With the ND disengaged, the performance is far better than the original Raptor. We found it very hard to reproduce the issue with the ND off, and it does perform comparatively to other cinema cameras in its class. This will be because of the improved reflection mitigation provided by the deeper flange depth of the V-Raptor XL and the design of the RED mounts. However, with the ND on, there are going to be circumstances where you may run into issues. While this is a rare issue to create, the effect seems to be most obvious when using higher ND settings, and compositions where you have strong backlight sources in frame coming directly into the lens, and then a darker subject in the foreground. But this is an uncommon issue to run into, and most shots that you shoot won't be at risk at running into this issue. RED have provided us with an early look at a new software tool for fixing this issue within RED CineX, which actually works on the original V-Raptor VV footage as well. We used this across a bunch of different test clips, and the results are actually really impressive. So while this can be an issue, the chances of getting this effect are quite small, and this tool does do a good job at fixing it if you do run into it. So it's not a massive thing to worry about, but definitely worth understanding. RED have been awesome when it comes to communicating with us, especially around the XL and this new software fix. We've had thoughts and feedback about the XL, and RED have listened and fed that input into their cameras and software, which is incredibly refreshing, and we really appreciate it. The XL features much more inputs and outputs compared to the original Raptor, as it is aimed at living on higher end productions that may need more options for outputting and powering accessories. So let's walk through all of the I/O and see what the XL features. When it comes to power distribution, the XL features two 24V RS ports, two PTAP outputs, and then three 2-pin LEMO outputs. This is a great range and means that most larger configurations should now have enough outputs on the body to power all the different accessories you may have to on the camera. We recently did a video breaking down everything that goes onto a cinema rig, so if you want to learn more about that, you can right here. If you want to use all of these power outputs, you'll need to make sure you are using a 24V battery or source. From our testing and REDs, we haven't managed to overload the camera yet when fully rigged, which should save some headaches on set when trying to make sure that everything stays powered. Next is video outputs. On the XL, there are three 12G SDIs on the rear of the camera. SDI 1 and 2 function the same as the original Raptor. This means that you can output 4K, but it is mirrored on both SDIs. But you can output 2K independently. The third output can be mirrored to SDI 1 or 2, or you can run all three mirrored if you want. Next, there is a 3G SDI port, which is independent from the rear SDIs, but is shared with the top LCD pogo. So tools can be fed through to this SDI, but some functions are discretely controllable. This SDI has been positioned for use with EVFs, as it also has a 2-pin LEMO next to it for powering an EVF as well. The XL has the same top pogo connector layout as the original Raptor, which means you can use the DSMC3 monitor with it as well. When it comes to more general I/O, there is a 5-pin for timecode, BNC for genlock, and a 5-pin for audio. This is the same as the Raptor, so can be used with similar 5-pin adapters to get XLR inputs. Next is a 4-pin control port and a 9-pin 1GB Ethernet port. This port requires an adapter, but does enable both IP output as well as P2P based timecode and genlock sync over IP, which the Raptor cannot do. This system has the same precision as normal timecode and genlock, but for workflows like virtual production, this means that you don't need to necessarily run extra cables. Lastly, there is a 5GB USB-C output. This can be used the same way as Raptor as well, so you can control the camera via phone or Ethernet, but the XL also features Wi-Fi internally for controlling and viewing your image via app or web browser. The Raptor is a dual voltage capable camera, and this means that you can put either 12 or 24V batteries onto it and have it work. When using 12-volt batteries, the camera will function, but it will disable all power outputs on the body. These will only work when a 24-volt battery is used with the camera. Having the ability to put 12-volt batteries on the camera in a pinch, or when not needing all the power outputs, could be pretty handy. But RED have designed the camera around this higher voltage system to help with power issues that can be run into on set when trying to power an incredibly rigged out package with stuff like a Cinetape, full fizz system, and wireless video. This is similar to what ARRI have done with the Alexa 35. The original Raptor is limited to just mini V-mount batteries without an adapter plate, whereas the XL is available in either V or gold mount, but this isn't user interchangeable. The camera has the same DC power connector as Ranger and will run at 24 volt when running off of mains. You may be thinking, what are those little aerials for on the top of the camera? Well, they're for the internal wireless timecode and genlock system. The XL has an integrated ambient master locket, which means any device that works with the ambient communication network will work with it. It can be used both wirelessly and wired via the 5-pin timecode or BNC for genlock that we mentioned earlier. It's cool to see a camera company pushing the envelope a little bit with having this kind of system built into a camera. As RED did with the original Raptor, they've collaborated with third-party companies to make these accessories. First off, there are a few bits of rigging. The XL riser plate brings the camera to the correct optical height for lens accessories when used with the existing base plates, and even has dedicated threads for bridge plates. There will also be top and bottom lightweight support rod brackets, and a top handle with wraparound extensions, similar to the wooden camera system from the original Raptor. RED have also released new dual voltage batteries co-branded with Core Swix. These will be available in gold or V-mount, have a capacity of 156 watt-hours, deliver 12 amps at 28 volt and 24 amps at 14 volt, which is higher than the Core Helix series. At the moment, RED is still developing their first-party DSMC3 EVF solution, which they are aiming to release this year hopefully. In the meantime, there are third-party EVFs available, of which RED are recommending these Kuto Chameleon, as you can connect it pretty nicely to the front 2-pin and SDI of the XL with one of their combination cables. You can quite easily get the Chameleon rigged onto the XL quite nicely with just a couple of extra bits. Additionally, RED have optimized SDI processing to gain even lower latency in a recent firmware, which will enhance the user experience on XL with third-party EVFs. I'm intrigued to see how RED handles their EVF, as both Sony and ARRI have good options for their flagship camera systems that use a single cable to make things easier and more reliable on set. The XL, as well as the original Raptor, have received firmware updates which allow you to connect the cameras directly to Frame.io camera to cloud, and upload your rushes directly into Frame.io without any additional hardware needed. It looks like a really easy connection process, and if your network can handle it, you can upload an 8K RAW R3D file, a log file, a CDL, a ProRes proxy file, a WAV, and a custom LUT for a single take. The XL comes in at roughly £41,000, including VAT for the body only, or just under £52,000 for the production bundle, which does put it at a much higher price than the original Raptor, which is roughly £25,000. We've detailed everything different between the XL and the regular Raptor in this video, and whether the extra features are worth it for you or not will come down to what you need. I can see some owner-ops grabbing the XL over the Raptor, but for most, the original Raptor will do loads of what the XL can in a more compact package capable of going onto smaller support equipment like a Movi Pro or Ronin 2. Let us know what you think of the Raptor XL down in the comments below. And if you like the video, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.